welcome y'all. Second episode of the TTG.Podcast, and we are here to talk this time about the athlete camp. Lots of big things going on next year, and one of them that we're really excited to bring you guys is the athlete camp. It's going to be an opportunity for people of all different levels, whether you're just starting out in the tactical games or you've been around for a little bit but trying to push to that next level, maybe advance onto the tactical division from the intermediate division, or if you're an elite athlete that's sick of getting your butt kicked by Jared every year, maybe it's an opportunity to come in and gain a little bit of knowledge from some of the best people in the sport and some of the best people in the industry. So talk about that a little bit. First thing we'll lead out. Why don't we, Jared? Why don't you announce some of the instructors, the teachers that we're going to have on board for the athlete camp?
Yeah, so I left my list over. Hey, bring me that list right there. Don't want to leave anybody. So on the women's side, there's Megan, Robin, Cal, and Tess. And on the men's side, it'll be Kirk, Hepner, Szymanski, and myself teaching the classes.
So for those of you that don't know, Megan Kennedy, Tess Salb, Kalarina
Key, and Robin Cox.
Perfect.
And Kirk Homer, Jacob Hepner, Tim Szymanski, and myself.
Jared Halbert.
Jared Halbert, yeah, everybody I think knows that guy. That's quite the impressive lineup we've got there, from CrossFit game athletes to 25-year veterans and shooting instructors. I think there might be a prior Olympian there. That's a pretty stout lineup we got there. A couple SWAT officers. Why don't we go into a little bit about what they're going to be teaching, maybe some of the blocks, how things are going to work out over the weekend.
So basically the structure of the weekend is going to be, there's always going to be a more beginner intermediate route or training block, while a more advanced training block is going on. So, let's say Saturday morning, we might be doing rifles that morning. We'd all start kind of in the same spot, talk over some different stuff, and then break off into kind of we can call it the intermediate path and then the elite path. The elite path will assume that you already know a whole lot, or not a whole, you don't have to know a whole lot, but assume that you're already starting at a higher competence, and assume that you already know things like holdovers and how to zero your gun, how to deploy your gun, maintain your gun, all of those types of things. And it will jump over a whole lot of the material where the intermediate group is going to be starting. So there should never be a time during the weekend where, if you're already in more advanced shooter, that you're sitting in a setting talking about things that you knew 5 years ago. There should always be, there's always going to be, the material should be challenging you the entire time. Then another thing that we really haven't announced yet that will be going on that weekend, and we're probably going to add one more instructor, which y'all can probably guess who it is. If you're looking at the schedule, you can tell that we have the top 3 from the championship on the men's side. And we're going to get the top 3 from the women's side. I just got to talk to one more person. You can figure out who it is if you know the scores. There is going to be an all women's track. So what we have found, the all women's tactical games university classes sell out every single time. We did a couple of free ones. Those there was a ton of people that showed up to those. And then when we kind of started doing reduced cost ones for a while, and those are also packed houses. The Tess was teaching those classes. So there will be an all women's path and training blocks the entire weekend, where, not saying that women can't compete with the men, because I think Tess and Carla and Megan and Robin could have probably, and Kalarina physically, could have done the men's elite at the championship and would have hurt some people's feelings for sure. But they had to beat me in the run 100%. But there's going to be an all women's class, because what we found is that a lot of times it's a little bit of a confidence thing. And if they're in their own setting, then they don't have to feel like there's, everybody watching them and assuming. So we can separate them out if they feel like it, and they can have their own training course throughout the weekend. But every morning we'll start where we're going to have a workout with everybody in the same spot. And then from there, we'll separate out. Some will go to the range, some will stay at the gym and go over, the different lifting techniques, all that stuff, all the way down to getting a program for the day, right? And then taking a look at that program. And, we have our training app where we have a whole lot of different programs built specifically for people that have weaknesses in certain areas. But if you're not using that program, how to look at programming from a day and say, okay, I don't need to know how to handstand walk, but I sure would like a lot of overhead stability. So instead of handstand walking, we're going to do, dumbbell presses or overhead dumbbell presses, and how to scale things to turn workouts into things that will help you in the tactical games, where you can pull that programming from CrossFit or even your home CrossFit gym, and how to alter those workouts to make it more specific for the tactical games.
Sure.
It's something that I've, kind of always done myself, where I would say 3 to 4 months out of a competition I was really interested in doing well in, the high school gymnastics and all that stuff went out the window. And I replaced that with things that were similar, like instead of handstand walks or handstand push-ups, I would be doing overhead work with dumbbells or barbells or axle bars. But not so much the actual muscle ups or ring muscle ups or handstand walks, handstand push-ups, those kinds of things. So go over training, how to modify normal CrossFit programming to fit what you're doing. And then technique, which is a huge, I think Jake, you and I definitely watch people that are more than strong enough to pick up 155 pounds on an axle bar and put it over their head. And it looks impossible. But if you could just get 10 minutes with them and teach them the slightest amount of how to transfer that power from your lower body through your upper body, they could be doing, 20, 30% more than what's on the bar. So, and explain, I think it's, probably a good weekend to explain, is walking with an axle bar over your head tactical? No. But it sure displays a whole lot of things that would make you a whole lot better at your job, like learning how to use your big, powerful muscle groups and to translate that energy into your extremities and get heavy weights overhead to, how to coordinate your muscles in your body in a certain way to be able to move heavy loads efficiently. So, but I think, the whole weekend as a whole, I think we'll on Sunday bring it together where we have 4 or 5 small events and have the guys like me, Megan, Robin, Samansky, and Cal, everybody kind of go over like, all right, this is the event. This is how I'm going to look at the event. This is how I'm going to break it down to figure out what I'm going to focus on and how to approach each event. And I think that would be a good space for Jake to talk a little bit about how he goes about programming the events. Because if you can understand how they're programmed, you can better break them down into pieces and figure out where the points lie, figure out what to focus on. If you need to go hard on the fitness or if you need to stay more reserved and shoot better. Because a lot of people say that, we haven't put a huge emphasis on the mental side of it. If your head isn't hurting at the end of the day from math, you're not doing it right, and I think that's just an understanding of how things are programmed helps you open that door into using your head a little bit more.
And just the time that I've spent with you understanding the gamesmanship and how important that is to actually competing in one of these events, and understanding why shooting 80% in when the rest of the field is going to shoot 90% and how you can make up that time in a different place because it's a high skilled shot. The way that you look at events and is different than anything I've ever experienced before. So I think imparting that knowledge on other people is going to be something that's absolutely going to be pivotal for them. So, pairing the physical characteristics, the shooting skills, the gamesmanship. I think Cal is going to be teaching a little bit about nutrition too. There's a lot of opportunity there to make you a more well-rounded athlete. So I think that's definitely something that people will be looking forward to.
I think that's a big thing that a lot of our competitors miss throughout a Tactical Games weekend is their nutrition.
Yes.
They plan to eat and they do this accordingly, all through their training. And then they get to the weekend and some people don't eat at all on Saturday. Yep. And then it catches up to them on Sunday. So I'm looking forward to hearing what she's got on that.
Yeah. Definitely. That's on a 3-day event. We saw that just wreak havoc on people on day 3. You can usually fight through 2 days of competition with some poor nutrition, but on that 3rd day, your body's just got nothing to feed off of. And we saw some of those athletes taper off later on for sure during nationals.
Yep.
Another thing let's touch on, so we talked a bit about the coaches or the instructors that'll be on board. Next up, some of the sponsors that are going to be there. So this is going to be an excellent opportunity. I know we talked about it briefly, but there's going to be the range, which will be TSA range. That's Jared's home range. So a lot of opportunity to do some really cool stuff there. Different bays, different setups, opportunities to run through aggregates, maybe some introductions of some of the new aggregates.
Sure.
Cool. So that's a good opportunity to get some new aggregate work out there, maybe get exposure to them early on in the year. We had talked a little bit about that during our last podcast about expanding that aggregate field from just the couple that we had last year to some of the skill work that's involved and required for shooting those aggregates. Another thing that we're really excited about is having some of our sponsors on board for the 2022 season. So an opportunity maybe to check in on Friday, try out some new gear over the weekend, see some of the gear that you guys are using, that we are using in the elite field. One of the big ones is definitely like the Javelin concept plate carrier, right? We've talked a bit about that and why that's advantageous. So, I think there's an opportunity there to run through why you like that carrier advice, any other carrier that you've used before. We're going to have Staccato will be on board, and Atlas paired right next to them. So an opportunity for maybe some shooters that have never shot a 2011 platform to pair up 2 of the best in the industry right next to one another and have their go at both of them. I think that's a pretty cool opportunity that not a lot of people get. Ballistic Advantage is going to be on board too. There's a lot of people in the elite field that are running those rifles. They make a really great quality product. I don't think anybody's going to say anything against that. We'll have 10,000 gear. They're very excited to be out there as well. A lot of our elite field are wearing those 10,000 gear shorts. Hoist is going to be on board. We'll have Blackhawk there as well. So Blackhawk might have some opportunities for you to try out some new holsters, maybe switch up what you're running there. I think we talked maybe Vortex will be there as well. So if you're running a red dot and you want to switch to that LPVO after you watched somebody crush it during nationals with that, or maybe you're interested in switching over to a red dot from something else that you're running, or adding a magnifier. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities to try out some new gear, test out some new stuff, and to get exposure to some new equipment. Anything else? You want to talk a little bit about the facilities that we're going to be using so people know what to expect when they get out there?
So the range, we've used the range for Tactical Games before. It's Texas Shooting Academy, and myself, Aaron, and Steve run it, which is great because it is 100% catered around the shooting sports. So we can do anything that we want to do out there, and that's a huge positive. So if you don't have a chance to be at a range that lets you, do physical fitness and shooting, then this will be a great weekend to pair them together. I think that, you certainly need to be exposed to it a little bit in order to have some success on the weekends. And then we're opening a CrossFit gym that's about 10 minutes away from the range. So we'll be able to go back and forth relatively easy and get a good, there's all the equipment that you could possibly want there. So you're going to be able to definitely put your hands on all the tactical games equipment. Mm-hmm. And then we're also going to be able to have the more traditional equipment there. Because I think one of the things that a lot of people, the perception is that all the top elite guys are always training on the implements that we use in the tactical games. And that probably couldn't be further away from the truth.
Correct.
A couple weeks before the championship, I put my hands on the implements for the first time in a long time. So you'll get kind of a view behind the scenes on really what training is going on and what that really looks like in order to build a base to where you are very successful with those implements. Loading above what you're going to be on a traditional bar rather than struggling with the axle bar, that kind of stuff. So we'll have all that equipment there. Like I said, the range, it's one of the only ranges probably around that has a 200-yard flat bay, where you have the opportunity to shoot anywhere you want within 200 yards, from 5 yards to 200. It's not, we don't have any of you sit at the bench and shoot 200 yards. They're all, action shooting base. So it's definitely a unique range where you get to do things there that you don't get to do anywhere else in the country. So,
the first time I ever got exposure to any 2-gun stages was at TSA, and that was one of the most fun shooting events I've ever done. I had a blast at that. Your guys' facility is definitely versatile, and you've got a ton of opportunity to do some cool stuff there. And you've definitely touched before on the importance of that picking up a barbell every once in a while, a traditional barbell, and the application of that. If your 1 rep max lift is 185 pounds and you have a 185-pound axle bar in front of you, there is very little chance that you're going to get a 185-pound axle bar up overhead, right? Sure. So the opportunity to push that weight a little bit with a traditional barbell that actually spins, where you can push that weight and get it a little bit higher, I think that's an excellent opportunity to get after people. What else are you guys excited about for the weekend?
I think, there's just always, anytime you start transferring knowledge around, you learn something, right? And it seems like a lot of times, even when I've been instructing new people, because I did early on when I was helping Tim out when he still had the tactical games, I was teaching the PGU courses, and inadvertently you would learn something from somebody that just started the first day of the class, right? So I think there's a huge transfer of knowledge both ways to the instructors, from the instructors to the students, and then from the students to the instructors. And anytime you do that, the tide rises, which is definitely a good thing. And I've never really had training with a professional shooter before. I guess I just befriended a lot of professional shooters when I started shooting. So I got my training through being their friends and just being invited to go shoot with them. So what you can do in 2 or 3 days with somebody that has already reached that level can cut years off your training time, right? There is no shortcut past mastering the fundamentals, right? However, whenever you're exposed to somebody who's already taken those steps, what could have taken you 4 or 5 weeks to realize, if I do this a little bit differently, it makes shooting, 50% easier. You'll learn that in 2 minutes because they'll look at it and see it and correct it. And then also being able to come in and do a couple of mock events, have people talk you through it, what you look for, what am I going to stress this time, type stuff. You'll go into your first event way ahead of the game. And not all of it is about that, right? Your proficiency with firearms and able to protect yourself and stuff like that, that will also skyrocket super fast. Because a lot of the things that we're doing in the tactical games demands a high proficiency with your firearms, right? So I think, there's going to be a lot of good things going on during the weekend. The instructors that we have, I'm not great at teaching beginning shooters how to shoot. I've shot my whole life. I don't remember not being able to shoot. My dad taught me. I was with a Red Ryder and 4 years old learning how to shoot. However, we do have instructors coming, notably Tess and Kirk, who are amazing at taking somebody who has never touched a firearm before to being comfortable with it and then being relatively proficient with it in a very compressed amount of time. Right. Whereas, if you bring somebody to me that already has a high level of competency, then I can get them a lot better in a short amount of time. So I think the instructors that we've picked to come are definitely going to be able to cover any kind of shooter that shows up. Right. So I think that it's going to be a great weekend, regardless of skill level, regardless of how comfortable you are, right now with firearms and stuff. If you're not comfortable at all with it and you're just really into fitness and it looks cool, you're going to come in to the weekend feeling uncomfortable with it and leave being comfortable and safe. Right. And that's the ultimate goal. If you're coming in and you've already been competing, maybe at a high level and intermediate, and you want to take that jump to elite, we can't get you stronger and faster over a weekend. We can teach you, we can give you the tools to get there, the methodology behind it. But we can definitely leapfrog you ahead in firearms and teach you how to train. That's the most important part, how to, a lot of people complain about time training, right? How to maximize the time you spend while you're training, to get the most benefit out of a training session, instead of just showing up and shooting steel a couple times and saying, oh, cool, I hit it 2 more times than I did last time. How to actually maximize your training time. So you're laughing because that's probably what you do, Nick.
I feel like you're making fun of me directly when you said that. I can definitely, I can say as somebody that's new to shooting sports, somebody that's definitely not new to the tactical games necessarily, but new to shooting sports in the grand scheme of things, having exposure to people that know what they're doing has helped me tremendously. I remember one of the first events I showed up to, Megan Kennedy was right next to me actually, and I was loading my magazines, and she noticed from very far away that I was loading 2 different types of ammo into the same magazine, right? Which to somebody that's been shooting for a long time, like, why the hell would you ever do that? But to somebody that's new to shooting, I was just reaching in my bag and grabbing ammo that I thought was going to be the same. And just that little bit of knowledge that she imparted on me that day carried over so much. And really, I've been able to learn from everybody in the sport. And just like you said, it's you never know whether it's the guy that just showed up for the first time that might have learned something, and maybe he's got 100 years of CrossFit experience, right? Or he's Greg Everett, who's one of the best Olympic lifting coaches that's ever existed. There's all these great people in the community, and there's a great opportunity to learn from them. So I definitely echo that. I personally have experienced that, and I'm very excited to be around the camp and to see everybody get to kind of experience some of that joy that I did.
I mean, one of the things that we haven't talked about too much is both Kalarina and Szymanski are chiropractors. I mean, they spend their entire career teaching people how to recover from injuries, how to prevent injuries, how to all that stuff. So, I mean, there's the amount, and I don't know, I've talked to Kalarina a little bit. I haven't spent too much time talking to Kalarina, but if you get Tim going, Szymanski, on recovery or this or that, the amount of knowledge that he has that he's willing to share with you is unbelievable. A lot of people know that I struggled with knee problems for the last year and a half, right? I don't struggle with my knees anymore because of Tim. There was a chiropractor here locally, Megan, that definitely did a lot to help me. But just talking with Tim about it, and it was seriously just do A and do B and keep doing those, and then make them a little harder each time. And I still have to be careful with my knees, but I wasn't experiencing any knee pain. Just for literally, he sent me 2 videos and do this and do this. And so the amount of knowledge that's going to pass on fitness, obviously Hepner, I mean, he's okay at fitness.
Never heard of him.
Never heard of him. Yeah. I'm sure he's going to be able to teach people a thing or two about how to get relatively fit. But yeah, I think it's definitely a good weekend that we're going to be able to cover a whole lot of, I guess, the spectrum of fitness and the spectrum of shooting. So
I agree. Peeling some of the layers back, starting from the basics, working on maybe some unilateral strength development. I know early on in my fitness journey, I was just trying to lift weight fast and hard and heavy in a singular plane of motion, and didn't really understand how important it was to work on unilateral strength, or to make sure that all my joints are healthy, to make sure that my diet's on par. And as I started shooting, the things that I've learned there. So I'm pretty excited about it. Hopefully you guys are excited about it, and the community is excited about it. Any last words you guys want to pass before we carry on?
I think people should show up with an open mind, and be prepared to learn from any facet of the weekend. Meaning, I'm sure Jacob may pick up a thing or two about fitness that he's never heard, or I'm sure Kirk might pick up a thing about shooting that hasn't heard. Just like Jared said, the instructors are going to learn from the students just as much as the students learn from the instructors. So I just think everybody should show up with an open mind.
Yep. Jared, you got anything else?
No, I think that's it from me.
Is George going to say hi?
Yeah, George came in for a special guest visit. I think he's camera shy now.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well,
I'm not going to cut that off, and I'll tell you.
All right. Well, we appreciate that all very much, and we look forward to seeing you in April. Thanks, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for tuning in.